Hey, welcome back to another edition of Everything College Basketball Present in the Zone Press Pod. Or I keep wanting to call it a podcast. It's a YouTube show. I'm so used to the opens for Sundays on the podcast that it's like second nature. Of course, this is, as always, sponsored by Applied Right Painting Services. And of course, hopefully by now you recognize this pretty lovely face of mine, Josh Burton.
Hey, Burton.
And then with us, as always,
Tyler Cook's on the other screen.
And I don't boo him. And
Shut up, people. Shit.
And like I said, as always, we're here to drop some knowledge on you and have a little bit of fun in the process. Tonight's going to be a little bit different in ways. Normally, we dedicate the whole show to the game of the day on Saturday. And we will talk about that. We will discuss Kentucky going into Tennessee to look for the series sweep, all the superlatives around it. But tonight also we're kind of going to get into a little cornucopia of stuff. We're just going to kind of talk and have some fun, discuss some issues around the college landscape and what have you. Also, this is, how should I put this, fellas? We broke the news the other day that our partnership with Premier Giant Productions, there's changes coming for this YouTube show. There's some stuff on the horizon. This is possibly, maybe, depending, one of the last shows that we produce that's on just a standard quality for the YouTube show. Possibly. We've got some big stuff ahead. As you can see, we're rocking the Everything College Basketball hats. And fellas, tonight, how you guys feeling about stuff? As you know, Thursday, we've got games going on right now. John Morant was putting on a show last I checked against Morehead State. Murray State was actually up on Morehead 40-14.5. And Morehead State's fans were chanting at John Morant, overrated. That's a first. How are you going to be down 26 at halftime to a kid that's a top 3 in the nation, top 3 draft pick potentially, and you're chanting overrated?
I hate that chant, by the way. Especially when they do it to people who don't really deserve it. Like, come on now. That's ridiculous.
They're just riding the wave. I've heard it. It's happened a couple good times. They did it at Kentucky, and Coach Cal shot it down. It's kind of overdone, outplayed.
Yeah, but you've also heard it too. I've never heard it where a team is down, more or less down 26 at halftime, and you're chanting overrated. Like, at that point, you're doing it just to be, like, to chant something.
You're doing it just because the team's getting
like, yeah, you're doing it out of spite. Yeah. That's all that is.
They're unsponsored Polar Pops full of haterade. Circle K, get on here. I only charge 86 cents a show.
That's great. I mean, hell, if anybody from Circle K, Speedway, Casey's General Store, Thornton's, Mom and Pop Deli down the road.
You all suck. You all suck except for Circle K. That's all I want.
Damn, okay.
No, that's not true. We will take anybody that was
anybody.
I'm waiting on the Blue Chew ad, by the way. I'm waiting on us to get Blue Chew.
Yeah.
And Peyton will be chasing your dogs all around the house.
Oh, my Lord.
With that, speaking of dogs, let's go down to our game of the day down in Tennessee and see if the Wildcats can bend Smokey over again. Give it to the Vols. First matchup, obviously, Kentucky, 2 weeks ago now, almost, Kentucky handled business at home in Rupp Arena against Tennessee and was able to really, honestly, put a smackdown on Tennessee. And it was unlike the Vols. The Vols would roll people, but we'd mentioned it before. Tennessee hadn't played anybody leading up to that in almost 2 months. And Kentucky had been battle-tested, and they put a beat down. They kept Grant Williams in check, kept Admiral Schofield in check, checked Jordan Bone. Even though he had 19, he still was pretty much in check. And the Cats went off themselves. P.J. Washington just dominated. And the Wildcats smacked around Tennessee. Tennessee, since then, They've struggled against Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
They lose to LSU. They struggle to Ole Miss. So, fellas, I'll pose it to you before we get anything else. Is Tennessee on the ropes right now?
Yes. In my opinion, they're on the downhill right now. Ever since that Kentucky loss, they haven't been playing so well. They started against Vanderbilt, got beat in a close game to LSU at LSU in overtime, and now they got Kentucky, and they started against Ole Miss. I think they're not playing well right now. I don't know what's going on or what's happening, but something's just not working out. And fun fact, Tennessee's played 3 top 25 ranked opponents this season. They won one of them, lost the other two. And the other two's been in a conference to Kentucky and LSU. Both on the road, by the way. So, something interesting. I don't know what's going on with them.
Now, they've had a long streak where they haven't really got much of a competition. I think they're on the ropes, but they're not going to take a knockout punch. I think they're getting woke up. If you watch the Ole Miss game, they were taking hits and giving them right back. They've kind of woke up a little bit. I think they realize that they can't coast. You know, you've seen Schofield and Grant Williams and Jordan Bone. They're all coming together to get it rolling. So I think they're tested now. I think that they're going to be better from here on out, and it's that time to where they're going to start showing themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. Maybe it was a little premature saying on the ropes, but I didn't know because they're definitely okay. We'll put it this way: they're definitely not playing like Tennessee was a month ago, 3 weeks ago. And I think that's got a lot to do with now they're in the tough part of their schedule. The SEC, for people who are still living in Iraq, this isn't SEC from 3 or 4 years ago. No. This is the SEC where it's a war every game. Even the bottom of the barrel in Vanderbilt right now is still can play you tough. And Kentucky just seen it, this past Tuesday. Arkansas is a team that's got a lot of talent, beat Indiana at home, had some nice wins, beat LSU actually on the road, got a lot of nice pieces, but they lost, I think, 5 in a row coming in, and they led for a majority of that game in Rupp Arena before Kentucky was able to gather themselves, pull away. This isn't, like I said, this isn't the SEC from a few seasons ago. This is the SEC. It's not quite what it was back in the early to mid-'90s where it was just super loaded, but it's getting back to that level. And Tennessee is starting to hit that stretch now where they're playing all these teams. That back half of their schedule is brutal, as they're finding out.
Yeah, you want to know how brutal that is? This is the third time, 3 weeks in a row on the YouTube show where we've talked about a Tennessee game.
That's very true. And they went, that's actually very, very true. This would make the first time all year that teams went 3 weeks in a row with the game of the day.
Yeah.
Kentucky, LSU, Kentucky. And it's not like we have like a Tennessee bias or anything. No. It's just the way the schedule and the games work out. Actually, as a matter of fact, this Saturday, Tyler, this is the only top 25 versus top 25 matchup in the country. I mean, let alone it's top 10 versus top 10, but it's the only one, which has kind of been a rarity, especially since we've gotten conference play this season.
Yeah, the matchups so far have been really, really fun to watch. I mean, we've had some really, really cool games. But this week it seems kind of off, but, anything can happen the way it's been rolling. Last Wednesday we had, 5 games, ranked versus unranked, and 4 of the unranked teams pulled out a victory. Marquette was the only team that skated by with a victory that was a ranked team. I'm scrolling through here. I see some games that could be problematic. I mean, TCU could probably go in there, and I need TCU to beat Texas Tech. Clemson could give North Carolina some problems. I hope to God Baylor beats Kansas State, but we'll just see from that. Gonzaga St. Mary, that's always a good interconference clash we got. Nevada, whatever. It's just not an appealing menu, but sometimes we get some good games going on. What do you think, Peyton?
I agree with that. Sometimes other weeks are better than the next week. Last week's games were pretty decent. This week's not so much, being Kentucky and Tennessee the only top 25 matchup for Saturday. But nonetheless, it's still a big game. The rematch, it's pretty highly anticipated. I mean, these two teams are tied in the SEC with 2 losses, both 13-2 in conference. and obviously LSU's leading with 13-2. It's going to be a tough game. But being at Tennessee, I predicted earlier before the first matchup happened, I said that they would split the series this year. I'd say Tennessee would go to Kentucky and beat Kentucky at Rupp, and vice versa. Kentucky would come to Tennessee and beat Tennessee. But man, that first matchup, Kentucky just put a beat down on them, and it just wasn't good from the start. But this game here is going to be interesting to see how Tennessee bounces back after that blowout loss to Kentucky the first matchup.
All right, fellas, I'm back. I apologize. Sometimes duty calls. I had to go check on our grandma. Those kind of following along on Facebook. And she had some issues today, and I had to go check on her. But I'm back. I'm sure we're still talking about the Cats and the Vols.
Yeah, I was talking a little bit about the first matchup.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys mentioned it. I'm sure you probably have. There's kind of the big story in that just how well Kentucky dominated the glass like they normally do. They were able to push Tennessee's bigs out, and it wasn't, we all know how good Grant Williams and Admiral Schofield are and how much of a matchup nightmare they are, but Kentucky did a fantastic job in that first matchup, neutralizing them on pretty much both ends of the floor. And did you guys mention about how Grant Williams was on his back more than I've seen since he's been at Tennessee? Like, that was a super physical game.
Yeah, they were banging.
PJ Washington just kind of did PJ Washington things. But this time it's different when the Cats roll into Knoxville on Saturday. They don't have the luxury of having Reed Travis, that we know of. Yeah, Reed might be back. He's already started rehab. But just playing it safe, they won't have Reed Travis. And Reed, like, his physical nature matched up really well against Grant Williams. And he was a big reason the Cats were able to neutralize, because they allowed PJ to roam and do his deal. Now, presumably, PJ's got to match up against Grant and could be foul trouble for PJ. But yeah, just kind of on that little mini matchup without Reed possibly being in the game and all that. What do you guys think about that? Obviously the Vols are going to key in heavy on PJ, or at least I should.
That's one of my keys for last game. If they can get PJ Washington in foul trouble to eliminate him from the game, I thought Tennessee could win that, and I predicted Tennessee to win. But they couldn't get him in foul trouble, and PJ had a hell of a game. Now, if Reed Travis is not going to be, if he's not going to play this week against Tennessee, could be trouble for Kentucky if PJ has to go into Grant Williams or something like that, and he gets in foul trouble.
Yeah, without Reed Travis, if he does not play, I think they have a more open opportunity to double down on PJ. If you watched, PJ got on the block by himself, one-on-one, and went over that right shoulder with that beautiful hook time and time again. I mean, it was just – it was clockwork. Get the ball, face up, one dribble to the middle, hook shot. Now, without Reed there, you don't have that threat of a dump-down dunk. Not as much. I mean, you have that guy off the bench. I cannot remember his name, saved my life, that big Brodini-looking guy.
EJ Montgomery, and then you have Nick Richards there.
But they're not the type of Travis. They're not a Travis. They're not as physically imposing. They're not as big or strong. I think without Reed, PJ has a hell of a lot harder time this go-around than he did the first time.
Yeah, I absolutely 100% agree with that. I think, too, we've mentioned it. We mentioned this past podcast, episode 13. We mentioned it when the Cats and the Vols played the first time, Tyler Hero. Yeah. One thing that Kentucky's really been doing a nice job at, with or without Reed Travis, is the guards have rebounded exceptionally well. More so in Tyler Hero and Kelton Johnson than Hagen's quickly. But they're going to have to now even more so. They're going to need another big game from the guards, dropping down, helping rebounds. It's going to be an interesting matchup because, like we've talked about, what Tennessee are you getting? You almost can kind of guarantee what Kentucky, for the most part, you're getting right now. But what Tennessee are you getting? Are you getting the team from early January, or are you getting the team that's struggled here lately? It's to be determined. With all that said, we've already done keys before. I don't think, unless you guys have got something new, I don't think things change. I think keys kind of said the same for both teams. So let's get into prediction time for this. Tyler, I'll let you go first.
It's not a key, but I think it's going to be watched closely. Based on the physicality of the first game and how they let it flow, I think that it needs to be that both teams need to be leery of how hard they're slamming into each other. I mean, that last game, you could see it in Tennessee's next game. They were just hurting. I mean, and that Keldon Johnson, he took a hell of a fall. PJ is getting banged up. It was a banger. I think this is something that is going to be a focal point of this game because Kentucky's going to come in trying to match that intensity. Tennessee's going to, I don't want to get hit like that no more, so they're going to be swinging back. I think that this is something that could cause a problem if they come in with that same mentality and that ref crew tries to key in on that type of play. But ESPN, they got this 61.5% to 38.5% Tennessee. I've went against Kentucky twice. I've lost twice. Let's see if it happens 3 times. I got the Vols going again. Josh, I'm your lucky charm, obviously, for picking against the Cats. So we're going to go Tennessee on this one. I think it's going to be a mid-high scoring game. I think it's going to be 74-70. I think the Vols pull it out with the fouls calling that's going to get called that they didn't last time. Whichever way they play it in, I think that Tennessee is going to – they took a fight against Ole Miss. They know what they need to do to win late game now. They just shown it. So I think that's what's going to happen. Late game, they're going to pull it out.
Interesting. I'd say it's going to be a closer game than it was the first matchup. I don't think it's going to be as physical as it was in the first matchup, but I think it's going to be physical. I actually have Kentucky going into Tennessee and getting out the W and sweeping Tennessee in the regular season. For score-wise, I got Kentucky 78, Tennessee 74. I just think Kentucky, PJ Washington, and I think Tyler Hero's going to have a hell of a game. He's a road warrior.
He's a road warrior.
He loves it. He plays great when teams hate him the most or big game situations.
Yeah, I think he said big games too because the Arkansas game, he keyed that right. He had career high 29.
Yeah, I think he's going to come to play, and he's going to be a big factor in that W. So I got Kentucky coming out with the win.
I got a couple things. Tyler Hero obviously been playing well. He's starting to hit a stride. PJ didn't really have the greatest game with Arkansas, but it was still enough that Arkansas had to key in on him. I don't see PJ having 2 bad games in a row, so I think he'll come ready. There's just a lot of factors. Revenge on their mind. Hero kind of fired him up, and Admiral Schofield acknowledged that Hero mentioned something about that Tennessee seems scared to play against PJ or something like that effect. And Admiral joked about it today, but they did hear it. It's kind of fired them up. Playing at home, just all the encapsulates that. Especially the first matchup, they got smacked around, and I'm sure Rick Barnes let them know about it. And on the flip side, Tennessee's not playing that well, though. They've lost 2 of their last 4, and the other 2, they didn't play well on those at all. They played just well enough to get by. There's so many factors in, like we've mentioned. Reed Travis not in for Kentucky that we know of. Now, if he plays, it's different. If he doesn't, it's whatever. Kentucky's still fine without him, but they're a lot better with him. Yeah. Just a lot and a lot. And here's a stat for everybody out there in ECB land. Kentucky, me and Peyton talked about this the other day. Kentucky so far this season, win game of the day is undefeated. Yeah. North Carolina, Louisville, Kansas, Tennessee. Looking to make it 5-0. With all that said, I've never picked – I shouldn't say never. I rarely pick against the Cats. But this is the one time I'm going to because I think everything that's going against them – remember the last 2 weeks that I said Tennessee's in trouble because Kentucky had just lost LSU and Kentucky had been playing well regardless. Kentucky smacked them. I said Tennessee last week was in trouble against LSU because LSU had just lost, was frustrated. LSU beats them. I think it's kind of the same thing. Not that Tennessee's lost, but I think with all the stuff that's going on, I think Tennessee finds a way. And let's just be honest. This isn't any place at home. You get a few more calls normal. It doesn't matter where you play. If you're at home, whether you want to believe it or not, you get an extra call or two. I think it's big. I think what Tyler said about refs probably going to call it tight this time. Foul trouble, Tennessee. I just think it's all a perfect storm. Tennessee wins probably by about 5 or 6 points. I think it's fair. I don't think it means anything for Kentucky other than fact the SEC race is probably over with as far as winning the league. They'll come in second or third. But it's still, as far as like a national seeding, it don't hurt. They'll still be fine. But I just think the perfect storm, Tennessee is going to win. Obviously, the Cats proved me wrong. It's not like I'm doubting Kentucky. I'm just being impartial here. So I think Tennessee, I don't know, something ugly like 71-66.
Is that your final prediction?
Yeah, I think it is. I think Tennessee will win.
Are you sure you're not going to swerve us like Cook did on the podcast?
No, I'm not. I'm dead serious about it. I think Kentucky can win. Yeah, obviously, do I want the Cats to win? Of course. Is there a scenario where I see Kentucky winning and possibly winning big? Yeah, I do. I still, at the end of the day, do I think Kentucky is better than Tennessee? Absolutely. But I think it's a perfect storm. Sometimes you just run into them. Sometimes it's like, okay, Cook, it's like this. It's like when Kansas got beat by Kansas State, that was a perfect storm. They had a bit that was part of the NBA crossover game. So they had Chauncey Billups and Stan Van Gundy on the call. So it was NBA guys. It was at home. The Kansas State seniors had never beat Kansas. Kansas struggling to win on the road. Like all the perfect storm, the right place, the right time, the right season. Kansas State won. Sometimes it happens. Tennessee's a quality team. Tennessee's at home. They're looking for revenge after a blowout loss in Rupp Arena. Kentucky's without Retrav. Do you feel what I'm saying here?
Yeah, I
get
it. No,
it's not indicative of Kentucky at all. I just think it's a perfect. Excuse me. I think it's indicative of like a perfect storm, Tyler. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, you were talking about that too. They had the whiteout game going on then. They had all that. So with the Kansas State game, you got factors rolling into this. Like you mentioned, Tennessee's not playing well. They're looking to bounce back. They're looking to come back and get one. And like you said, I think you're reverse psychology in this game. You're saying that, but you're going to get a Tennessee to come or Kentucky to come out on this. You probably didn't pick Tennessee or Kentucky for your picks in the group.
Oh, but, for sure.
Yeah, so you're half cutting it here. But yeah, I can see that. I can see the redemption factor. Wanting to come back. Rick Barnes has got something going on with the boys behind the scenes. I think for extra motivation. I think that Tennessee will definitely come out and get this one.
Yeah, I just think it's just a perfect storm, and like I said, you can't like tell me that Kentucky can't win and can't win big either. I fully see that, but a lot of things underrated too. There's a lot of places that in America that's hard to play at. Tennessee is one of the more underrated places that people don't talk about. You think about it, using the Kentucky-Kansas connection again, it goes all the way back to 2010. Coach Cal's first year at Kentucky, Kansas was rolling. They had Xavier Henry on. Kansas number one in the nation, undefeated. Their first loss comes at Tennessee. Tennessee, that place is so hard to play at. Kentucky gets number one in the nation again for the second time that year. Go into Tennessee smacks them by like 15. And that place has always been a thorn in their side. They beat Kentucky there last year. Tennessee at Thompson-Boling Arena is as tough a place to play in America as there is. So there's a lot that goes into that. I just think Tennessee will squeak one out.
For confidence-wise and mentality-wise, Tennessee needs to win this game. To defend their home court, they need to win this game. I just don't think they're going to do it.
Yeah, well, I hope you're right. Let's talk about this real quick. Let's just bring it up, and then I'll let you guys kind of take over the program. It was revealed, was it yesterday or the day before, the final 12 finalists for Coach of the Year.
Yeah.
And then the typical names that you'd expect, Coach K, you had Tom Izzo, you had Mark Few from Gonzaga, people like that, Roy Williams. But they left off two coaches that surprised the hell out of me that just it blew my mind. How do you leave? And this isn't homerism. I swear to God, it's not. How do you leave Coach Cal off the list? There was every team inside the top 12 in America had their coach represented except for one team, and that was the number 4 ranked Kentucky Wildcats. How is John Calipari, and even like people who don't normally like Cal or that's in the media or just media people in general were commenting on Twitter saying that either there's a vendetta against him, there's people inside that voting that has something against him, or they're stupid. You don't have to like the guy. It's not a popularity contest. It's about who's doing the best job in America. And I don't think he should win it by any means. I think there's other coaches this season who should win the award. I actually think Will Wade should win over him based upon LSU, what they're doing. But how do you leave either one of those two guys out of at least the final 12?
You didn't mention the second guy, Josh. Who was your second?
Oh, Will Wade from LSU.
Okay. You said he was left out as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, both of them.
Boy, that ain't right. I can see why they maybe want to leave Cal out because he's probably in there from the conversation every other year. But to leave out the LSU guy, leaving Wade out, this guy's got some talent. I mean, Greg Peterson mentioned it. If you took off the jersey of these LSU players and you showed the ranking coming in from the recruiting class, they'd look like a Kentucky recruited team. They have some highly touted scouts and kids coming in and playing and doing well. I mean, they beat Kentucky. They beat some good teams playing extremely well. Like we've talked about before, they have the capability of making it to the Final Four. This team is something else, and to not have the guy at the stop or steering the ship not on the list is kind of crazy.
Well, see, I think it's a problem, though, here that we found in the last 5 years or so here in just America and like sports or whatnot in general, is that people get the assumption that just because you win and win frequently, that you're all of a sudden not allowed to be on lists like these. Like you think about any other sport, you see it where guys are for 5-6 years in a row that they're MVP type candidates, but it's like voter fatigue. They're like, well, we can't give him the award 4 years in a row, 3 years in a row, or whatnot, because why? I mean, he's still putting up. He's probably the best player, best coach, whatnot. But we just want to be fair. It's not about being fair. It's about being legit. It's coach of the year. So what if it's like you're trying to discredit being excellent? And Coach K, I think all agree, is the greatest college coach, maybe basketball coach of all time. And he's on the list, sure. But at the same time, it's the only thing that bothers me is like Coach K gets a pass when he's got an all-star team. And for years, all you ever heard about with Coach Cal is like, well, he's got a team that anybody can coach. You just roll the balls out. But when it's Coach K, they're putting him on the list to be National Coach of the Year. And it's not just Tyler, explain that to me. How is it fair for one and not fair for the other? Because you know damn well that you heard it. You're not a Kentucky fan, and you heard it for years and years that like, oh, we got to go coach that team. All he does is roll the balls out. But now Coach K's got an all-star team, and everybody's applauding him like, oh, my God, look how great this is.
Duke University is put on a pedestal by most of the media outlets, and we're seeing it tenfold this year. Zion saturation. It's crazy how now don't get me wrong, Duke is one of the best programs of all time. Got one of the best coaches of all time. But, with the way Coach K presents himself, he doesn't have that crazy, not crazy, but that over-exaggerated demeanor. He's not so vibrant. He's not so he doesn't conflict with the media. He's kind of like the Greg Popovich of the NCAA, but he's just real mild mannered, real monotone. But on the flip side, you got Coach K, very excited, very over the top sometimes. Got that Italian blood in him. It's the yin and yang. It's left and right, but they got a quote unquote type they want, and Coach K fits that mold more than Cal does.
Yeah, it's like the people who stereotype kids. Like you just look at one kid versus another that's standing beside each other. And most people, especially of a certain generation, I'm going to offend people, and I don't mean to, but like of an older generation now, they could look at a kid that's got, let's just say, tattoos or got like long hair right next to a kid that's clean cut and no tattoos. And they would look at the one with tattoos and automatically assume that they're a thug and they're no good, and assume the kid with clean cut is, proper and should be on their posters and be the face of their company or face of their university. But, not knowing stories or not taking into account stories, it's kind of like that. And I feel like sometimes in these coaching circles and these awards, and it really is a popularity contest. It's not about, it's very little to do with, who deserves it.
Yeah, which it shouldn't be. It should be who deserves it, but
With all that out the window, these awards are great. They're nice to have. Go home, show your wife, whatever. The thing that people are going to remember is cutting down the nets in March. So I wouldn't get too hung up on these Coach of the Years or National Player of the Year or stuff like that. Sure, it's a nice award. That's a really cool award, especially get National Player of the Year. But that's not going to get recognized as much as cutting down the nets. National championship. That's the ultimate prize. So I understand the concern of like who's on the list, who's not on the list. Only one wins the big one, and that's the one you need to shoot for.
I mean, it's very true. National Player of the Year. I think Zion all's but wrapped it up. He's pretty much done everything. And especially, I think wrapped it up for him, and you'll think I'm crazy, both of you probably, is him setting out the last two games. Because even though they won at Syracuse, they didn't look the greatest. And, of course, they lost this last, was it Monday night or Tuesday night they played? I can't remember. My brain's not working. Monday or Tuesday. And they lost to Virginia Tech. That wrapped up National Player of the Year for him, in my opinion, because it shows how valuable he is to that team.
I agree with that. I think so.
Yeah, it just shows what a big asset it is. You got Cam Reddish and you got RJ Barrett, who are, the number 1 and number 3 player in the country coming in. But then you have Zion, who, if you take him off the floor, like you mentioned before, they look human. They look like they're not the Monstars anymore. They are capable of getting beat, and it showed, and they have.
Yeah, they definitely look far more beatable, and a lot of that's to do, in my opinion, with Trey Jones. He's not the same player. RJ Barrett and Cam Reddish are going out and getting buckets. They are getting points, but it's just not enough. How about Jack White's missed 28 straight three-pointers? And that son of a gun.
Sounds like Carson Edwards.
Jack White, if you're listening, buddy, I feel like the only three-pointers you made, you hit like 2 or 3 against Kentucky, and then you've missed 28 cents. That's crazy.
Yeah. Crazy.
It either stop shooting them, or you better pray to God you make your next one.
It doesn't stop Prison Mitch from hitting threes. Big Monday, boy. Prison Mitch out there, 9 points, 5 rebounds, 4 blocks, coming off the bench for the Jayhawks, getting that big win over Kansas State. Kiss my ass, Cats.
That's a good win. I think needed that one. We'll talk more about that on Sunday.
I got some beautiful stuff for that Sunday.
Yeah, we got we'll talk more on that. That's in the
for
show
the live podcast broadcast.
Yeah, yes, it's very, very true. In case you guys have been living with a rock or haven't heard or forgot, this Sunday. Now, keep in mind, this will be only the podcast one time like this, because we did say that we'll create a new live show. But in collaboration with Premier Giant Productions, we are this Sunday's podcast will come live and in living color. It'll be, as far as I know right now, it'll be on Premier Giant Productions Facebook page. streaming live, so you'll get to see us do our thing. And also, don't worry if you can't watch live or you just prefer whatever. Then we will have the audio up as per normal. It'll be up on Anchor shortly after, so no worries there. We encourage you actually to do both. Watch us live and re-listen to us on the audio podcast on Monday.
It'll be different.
It's going to be awesome because it's going to open up so many thousands of people. Because Tyler, you have the numbers more than I do. I think you've seen some of the views, but there's thousands of people that go and watch these videos on Premier Giant.
I think the last one for his football one, I think he got 2,100 hits, 2,200 hits. He's averaging about 1,800 hits, so it's a big step up for us. It's a nice platform that we're grateful to be able to try and get a hold of and be able to show what we can do on a different stage and have we're going to have that professional equipment. Noah always does great work, so he's gonna do great by us, and we're gonna do great by him.
So we're not gonna spoil nothing. You can look in our eyes to our excitement. Tyler, how dope is our little layout? We're our main layout. He's already showed us.
Boy, I tell you what, Stephen A. Smith be fucking jealous of that, boy.
Dude, without giving away anything, our layout, like when you see us talk on Sunday, our layout he's made for us is dope. It is seriously dope.
I mean, talking about this right now is getting me so excited for Sunday.
Yeah, it is. It is bad.
Free plug. If you're getting married and you need a photographer, Weddings by Weddle, go look him up. Does great work. Go get him out. Good prices. But get him now because he's filling up fast for the year already.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, wedding season's almost upon us. Just like, what else is almost upon us, fellas? Exactly 21 days, 3 weeks from today, the NCAA tournament will be back in our lives.
Exactly 21 days, my baby will be here, damn it.
Yeah.
A lot of things coming.
A lot of stuff. Lots of stuff coming up. But yeah, 3 weeks from today, I don't know if you guys recognize that, but 21 days, we will have the NCAA already tipped off. And at this time right now, we will be watching games. So what's your guys' preference when your teams play? Because I know it sounds like a weird question, but I actually have a preference. Your teams play. Do you prefer Thursday, Saturday, or Friday, Sunday? Or does it not matter?
It doesn't matter to me. Whatever day is cool with me. I don't care. I prefer early games, like early morning games and late games. But the day of the games, they don't matter to me.
Whatever gives them the biggest rest between the conference tournament to the beginning of the NCAA tournament is what I prefer. Now, whichever that falls on is fine by me. If they get knocked out early, I don't care. But if they make it into the semifinals or the finals of the Big 12 championship, I like to see them go later.
Okay, time-wise, it doesn't matter. I don't care what time they play. They can play the early tips at noon or they can play the late games at 10. It doesn't matter. I'm going to stay up and watch them. No big deal. But for me, and I'll tell you why, I like Kentucky playing Friday, Sunday. Because normally around this time, racing season starts as well. And normally around this time, our local track, it's got legendary status here for dirt tracks, Brownstown, has a big race during the year on that Saturday, the first week in March Madness. So it works out perfect. When Kentucky plays Friday, then I can go to the races on Saturday and still keep up with the NCAA tournament second round. And then on Sunday, Kentucky plays again. Plus on Sundays, normally, you know how it is. You're getting ready for work on Monday. You're kind of unwinding. Nothing really going on right now, besides our podcast, of course, now. But I just prefer Kentucky playing Friday, Sunday anymore. It's so weird, I know. At least for the first and second rounds. Sweet 16 and Elite 8's a little different maybe. But at least for the first, second rounds, I kind of like Friday, Sunday games. Probably question is I'm getting asked too often. It's just kind of a weird thing I like.
It's kind of off the wall there. It's kind of like people going and touching the machines at the casino all weird, thinking it's going to help them out or something. It's just it's kind of it's superstition sometimes. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I wear my tall Kansas socks most games. Whenever they lose, I don't wear them till they win again. So just weird stuff like that.
Well, we'll have to do a whole podcast this summer during our summer series on like superstitions and have like everybody out there in ECB tell us theirs if they have any. But my boss at work, he was talking to me the other day, yesterday, about the IU game. IU comes off a big win against Wisconsin. He's talking to me about it a little bit yesterday. And he says, Josh, he goes, I have this one IU shirt. He said, I wore it one time they beat Michigan State. He said, who was it they played next? I forget whoever they played next. Iowa, Minnesota, whoever.
Yeah.
He said, I didn't wear it, and they lost. And a friend of mine called me, and he said, "Did you wear that shirt?" He said, "No." He said, "Damn it, Scott." He said, "Wear the fucking shirt." Excuse the language. He said, "Wear the fucking shirt." He doesn't wear it the next game. They get blown out. It was against Minnesota. He said he finally wore it again the other night. He remembered it. It was in his truck. He remembered it, grabbed it, wore it against them for the Wisconsin game, and they won. He said, next time they fucking play, I'm wearing that damn shirt again. It was kind of like weird superstition. I'm like that. I've been like that for years, where not necessarily a shirt, but where I'll change something. So if I wear something and the Cats are playing terrible or losing at halftime or whenever I can, I'll change something. So
you sound like Rick Pitino there, buddy.
Yeah, well, like I'll change shirts, and if that's not working, or maybe it's not the shirt, I'll change the hat, or I'll change until I find a formula, and then when they start playing well, if they do, then I just stay with that right there.
So
Come out in a white tux.
So I don't have like change of shirts or anything. I have where I'm sitting at. That's really important for me. Because back in 2013, when Louisville won the national title, by the way, I don't care if you didn't count. We got
Asterisk Barry Bonds.
Okay. The whole tournament run, I was sitting in my old house in your room. And I used to sit like right in the corner, and they always win. And then when the Final Four came, we played Wichita State. I was in the living room, and they was getting their ass whooped. I'm like, screw this. And I immediately walked into your room. I don't think you was there. And that's when Louisville started making their comeback, and I never left that spot. And they ended up winning the national title. So that's mine.
I'm curious. Tyler wears the socks and all that. We have ours. You guys out there, let us know in the comments below, or let us know in the Facebook group, facebook.com/everything college basketball. Let us know. Do you have any weird superstitions for your team while watching your team play? And if you do, what are they? Maybe you don't, but if you do, I want to hear what they are. So that'd be fun. Tyler, I know you had something you wanted to talk about. These guys, by the way, are doing a great job. They're carrying me, tired, exhausted, all that stuff, with a lot of stuff going on, preparing for Sunday and whatnot. But Tyler, I know you had something on sportsmanship you wanted to touch on.
We seen it earlier. I think it was last week early. People throwing stuff on the floor at the Georgia game. And then we got people throwing shit on the floor at the Ole Miss game because they're mad that a charge call got called that was 115% a charge. And you want to start throwing shit on the floor. Georgia was just a little bulldog. Regardless, they need to find out who did that, and you should not be able to come back the rest of the season. Yeah, it's just you cannot be acting like a fucking fool when stuff doesn't go your way. You're acting like a toddler. You're acting like a kid that doesn't have any self-control. I don't like it. I know hockey's got their hat thing or the squid thing or whatever. That's expected. You do not throw trash on the floor or anything like that. We've seen what happened one time when it happened up in Detroit with the Pistons and the Pacers. Yeah. You don't. Your fat ass up here eating 6 hot dogs and 14 pops and 3 cans of popcorn. Don't want Admiral Schofield to come up here and popping you in the mouth. So it's just a pet peeve of mine. You know, you need to show class. You need to, regardless. And the guys should have cut this in the ass. You know, the coaches or something should go on the mic. Tom Crean did, which I applaud him for that. But Ole Miss's coach or somebody, Rick Barnes could even have grabbed the mic and told these guys, it's ridiculous. Stop it. It's not the way you need to represent yourself or the university. It's not out of hand, but it's not something that needs to happen ever again.
Completely. You're not going to get any argument out of me. I completely agree. It makes me think of a couple of times I remember back in the late, like 2008, 2009, 2010-ish, I've mentioned it before, but back when Louisville and West Virginia and all those guys were still in the Big East, and Louisville actually went to West Virginia one time, and the West Virginia crowd was throwing stuff down on the floor at them. I think there was a battery thrown, coins were being thrown. I remember Kentucky that year with DeMarcus Cousins went to Mississippi State, and State fans were not only had called boogie, but they were throwing stuff down on the floor at the end of the game as the kids were going into the tunnel. That's when, and then the narrative after that game too was it wasn't about Mississippi State fans throwing stuff. It was as they were going in the tunnel, John Wall, they said throw up gang signs, which whatever. I don't think he did. He was just starting the hand signal. But it's silly. Why do that? Like in the Georgia Act, and then in the Georgia case, it cost Georgia the game.
Exactly.
It take a free throw to win it, and it cost them the game. It's just silly. Why? I don't understand why acted a fool at a game.
Ridiculous.
Win, lose, draw. Why act a fool?
No, and another thing as far as sportsmanship and stuff like that, Jim Boeheim. This isn't about sportsmanship, but what I'm going to say is after the fact, Jim Boeheim set a perfect example of what you can do when you face something that's tragic, a huge adversity. He came up, he kept going after that tragic accident he had. He showed up, he coached his kids the best he could. Kids gave him everything. The fans, Coach K gave him everything. He showed these kids what it's like to face adversity and put one foot in front of the other. On the flip side, you got that Arkansas coach going to the press conference after the game and just bitching and moaning and crying. And I mean, what's that show the kids? Like, does it make it okay? Well, I got beat, so I'm gonna throw a temper tantrum. It starts with you. It's not something that needs to be done. It's a terrible example to set.
Glad you mentioned that. We posted about it. Mike Anderson, if you're listening, Mike, sorry, but you're a crybaby. You have been. You were a crybaby for your time at Missouri, but it's gotten worse since you came back home to coach Arkansas. I think you're actually a pretty good coach. Arkansas has been decent under you. They've not been great. They've had some good talent, underperformed some, and in years they've overperformed. I think Arkansas is okay. I think you're a fine coach. But you're a crybaby, and Tyler's right. Why in the hell? You can say what you want about the officiating. Yeah, they missed some calls. It happens, okay?
It's always going to happen.
Right, they missed some calls. But their calls didn't cause you guys to miss, 7 free throws in a row to try to close the game out. Their calls didn't they didn't have you take 20 3-pointers in the second half or whatever it was and only hit 2, 3. So come on. That's why I'm not an excuse guy. Neither are you. Neither is Peyton.
No,
we're not excuse guys. It's either, some calls can be bad, okay? But at the end of the season, they all kind of balance each other out in one way or another. But normally, you don't lose a game because of a call or two. You lose the game if you miss free throws, turn the ball over, miss jump shots, whatever. Yeah. Just get over it. And I'm glad you mentioned that because he's a crybaby.
Yeah, you're setting a terrible example, and it shows. It shows by the play. I mean, watch the next game they play. They're going to be pissy. There's going to be 5 LeBrons on the floor crying over everything, just because of the actions of their coach, and they're going to think it's okay.
Couldn't have said it better myself. You guys got anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah, just real quick. Marcus Howard, you son of a bitch. I predicted on the podcast, on the bank on it, that Marcus Howard dropped 30 points against Villanova. I checked this. I didn't watch the game. I checked the stat line this morning when I woke up. Dude got 25. I'm pissed. I don't like him anymore. You couldn't hit 5 free throws? Really? Something like that? You couldn't get 5 more points? I'm 0-5 in bank on this now.
We laughed about it too. Remember, we said it'd be funny if he got 29. Well, he did you 4 words. He did 20. Go ahead. I see what you're saying. I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah, shout out to Conrad. He's in the chat right now. He has a question for all three of us.
Everything pro wrestling.
Yeah, everything pro wrestling. Favorite college player that's considered a bust?
Man, you're going to make me my brain turn here.
Yeah.
Somebody that you really liked that I'm assuming the way the question's worded, can correct me, Conrad, but I'm assuming by being a bust, that means they'd have to come in with some high profile like attributes like 4 or 5 star. Man, I'm gonna think about that. Favorite
I got one. Like that was a bust that went to the NBA.
Well, I guess just like a bust that didn't work out. I don't know.
I got one that was a good college player, but he was a bust in the NBA, and it was Rashad McCants.
Yes.
Rashad was a great college player. I mean, he was getting after. He was one of the reasons why, like, I even kind of followed North Carolina. But then he got to the league and he kind of just fell off. And one of my favorite Jayhawks did the same thing. Brandon Rush. You know, he bounced around from team to team. He never really got his feet settled. He played at Indiana for a little bit. He never got his feet settled. He never really became the type of player that he was supposed to be in the league. He was a kind of a bust, you know. So Rashad and Brandon Rush are for me.
Fair. You know what? It's very interesting.
It's a good question.
I'm going to say here, Sean May. Conrad said Sean May. See, Sean May I thought was really good at North Carolina. Now, if you're talking about a bust in the NBA, he was definitely a bust in the NBA. We can.
Oh yeah, that's the way.
So Conrad, real quick, let us know if you're talking about bust in college or bust in NBA, because I can go either way on this question. But while we're talking about it, if we're talking about a guy that you liked in college that busted hard in NBA, I mean, he's doing great in China, by the way, right now. But I like Jimmer Fredette from BYU. Could fill it up, and
that boy needs a second chance.
Yeah, he's dropped like in the last couple of years in China. He's been MVPs, like all-stars, dropped like 70-some in a game, but he just couldn't find his footing in the NBA. I love watching him in college.
He's dropping buckets on the Rockets in the summer league twice.
Yeah,
put up 30 plus.
Okay, so that makes it a little easier then. I'd like to try to find examples for both. A kid that I was really excited about, Kentucky related, I was really excited about because they said he was going to be like the next John Wall. He was a former 5-star kid, North Carolina State, transferred for reasons to Kentucky. He was there for the 2012 national title, practiced with him all year, finally got his chance to play in 2013, then had a myriad of like issues, like he had mental issues, and he just wasn't that good as he. Ryan Harrow. That kid, if you watch his mixtape, especially from like high school leading into NC State, that kid was the next coming of John Wall. He was explosive. He was fast, handles. He was a better shooter than John Wall. Like, he got Kentucky fans excited because you'd always hear him practice too when he's practicing with like Anthony Davis, Marcus Teague. That they always said that if he could have been eligible, he'd have been the starting point guard over Teague for that title team. So everybody got all excited, and then he had that he had breakdowns, and he just wasn't very good. He spent that 1 year at Kentucky pretty much as a mutual parting. He went to Georgia State. Georgia State, he was okay there, but that was a kid I was excited about. Archie Goodwin's another one. Another kid at a high school, McDonald's All-American kid. Just you thought you was going to get so much out of him, and he was just a nutcase. He would do one of the dumbest IQ players I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I remember.
One of the dumbest IQ players I've ever seen in my life, and then bolted after 1 year. So those are a couple of like Kentucky-related ones I can think of off the top of my head.
I got one that never even touched the floor in the college basketball world, and that was Jonathan Bender.
Yeah.
You know, coming in, he was supposed to be something special. He hopped straight to the league. This is what I was talking about. He wasn't in that 5% that I mentioned. I knew it when he was coming. I knew it when he did it, and it showed. That some bitch just flopped like a fish. It's terrible. Didn't even average over 10 points a game. It wasn't his time. I mean, he had one very good season, I think, and after that, he kind of faltered and fell off.
Oh, I got a couple more now that we're thinking about him. One of the greatest college players of all time, Tyler Hansborough, was fantastic in North Carolina. Yeah. And he had a couple good seasons with Indiana, but once he left Indiana to go to like Toronto or wherever he went, Charlotte, he wasn't in the league much longer. He had like 1 or 2 good years with the Pacers and fell off. Here's another one an extremely bad bust. Greg Oden.
Yeah, that's
Greg Oden. So good at Ohio State. So good at Ohio State. Led the Buckeyes to the national championship game, him and Mike Conley, and then goes, what do you go, number 1 to the Trailblazers?
Number 1 overall.
And he went ahead of Kevin Durant. Went ahead of Kevin Durant, and he just knee problems, stuff. He was just busted hard.
Hey, he's going to join the big 3 league, boy. Ice Cube, here he comes.
Yeah. Conrad says, leave Tyler alone.
Yeah, leave me alone, man.
No.
I know. Hansborough. The reason why Hansborough isn't going to the league no more because he turned around and was going to bust somebody in the mouth and it was Ron Artest and he ran him out of the league. Remember that?
That's the funniest thing. He went to go all Psycho T on him. Then you could literally see in his demeanor and his face change whenever
he went from Psycho T to Baby T.
Yeah. Went on nuts. There was a couple other guys that was on my list. I was sitting here just thinking about. And damn it, man, I had them right there on the tip of my tongue when we got to talking about Oden and them. Man, you guys talk for a second. I'll remember who it was.
Sebastian Telfair. That's probably one of them.
Yeah, he didn't go to college. He
Nope.
just skipped college. Mega bust inside the pros. Damn it! There was one.
Hey, you ain't said nobody. You fucking amateur. Get somebody out there.
I'm trying to think. I don't know if I have anyone bust. I mean, I got one who I really liked in college until I met him.
Oh, Paul Aldridge.
I really liked him.
You shut your mouth.
At a Pacers game, and then he was a dickhead, so I don't like him anymore.
Yeah, he was a douchebag.
I still got a picture with him. So
he was an absolute dick, to be honest.
He was.
So, man, good question.
Yeah,
That's got my brain. That's one that you'd have to sit down and really think about instead of doing it on the fly.
I gave you like 7 people, boys. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I know, but there's
more. There's probably a couple quality guys that fit this list.
I got a couple more that's Kentucky related. Since under Cal they've produced a lot of pros. Deron Lamb, I love Deron Lamb, one of the best shooters I've seen, and he just couldn't find a spot in the pros. Like he could not find one. Great at Kentucky for 2 years, won a title. Loved watching him shoot. Loved watching him play. Just couldn't figure it out in the pros.
I had a couple for Louisville. Peyton C was one of them. Had a great college career with a national title, a couple Final Fours. He's in China right now, I believe, doing pretty decent. Wes Smith's another one. Great college career. Didn't really do too much in NBA. He's overseas. And then my last one's probably Luke Hancock. He's probably one of my favorite players to go to Louisville. And he had a good college career. I don't know. I actually have no clue what he's doing right now. I don't know if he's still playing ball overseas or what he's doing. But
I'll give you
those are a couple.
A dude that did make the pros. I mean, he might have had like a cup of coffee, but a 5-star kid just from a few years back that in going to UNLV and just after 1 year, he didn't really have the greatest year at UNLV after being high profile in high school and faded out. Was actually, I'll give you 2 people from UNLV, former 5-stars. The one I was thinking of first is Steven Zimmerman. The kid was a 5-star. He had climbed all at top 5 in his class, like 2014, 2015 class, scoring like Kansas, Kentucky, and all of them, went to UNLV, and just never produced like everybody thought he would. Another kid, they ended up going number 1 overall to the Cleveland Cavaliers. That might be one of the worst number 1 picks of all time is Anthony Bennett. 5-star kid, went to UNLV, didn't really, in an okay season, and just bombed hard in that draft.
He was number 1. I would do for sure.
Oh my, yeah, you're probably right. Looking back now, especially Depot should have. Anthony Bennett, that was just terrible. 5-star kid. That's like a definition of a bust. He's a 5-star kid coming out of high school. Went to UNLV instead because I think grade issues or whatever, and then somehow he managed to get picked number 1. That was a bust.
I was in a class with Nerlens Noel, Cody Zeller, Depot.
Conrad's got a couple good ones. Some names I forgot here. Mentioning Daniel Orton from Kentucky, kid that was looking at thought about going to Kansas.
Thank God he didn't.
Kentucky. Yeah, he's the only player since Coach Cal's been there that really has beef, that Coach Cal has beef with, because he almost killed the APR, the academic progress rating, because he declared after the season was over with, that John Wall year, and just completely left school to go train. Everybody else, John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins, everybody who leaves has an agreement with coaching them that you finish out your freshman season, or you finish out your freshman year. You go to class, you finish it out. And he left, and it killed the APR for a second. And it just silly. He was a former 5-star kid as well. Just never made it. Got drafted, I think, by the Magic, but just never made anything of it. DeJuan Coleman, high-profile recruit coming out of high school, signed with Syracuse. Big dude inside, and just shit the bed. Stanley Robinson from UConn back in the day. Those are some good ones. Some good ones that names I'd almost forgotten about.
Josh Selby's on that list too, boys.
Josh Selby, dude. Good Lord. Do you remember him coming out of high school? I'm so glad you said that. Him coming out of high school. He had committed to Tennessee, and Bruce Pearl got in trouble, and he ended up going to Kansas. Well, I'll give you another one. We just mentioned Xavier Henry. He was in that class with John Wall. He was the number one player in that class.
Yeah.
Over John Wall, over DeMarcus Cousins, over all those guys, the number one player. Had a good year at Kansas. Wasn't great, but had a really good year. And he made the NBA and just never made it stick.
Was he the one with the uncle that had like the Flavor Flav clock every game and shit in the corner? They kept plugging him on ESPN. He'd have that big ass clock hanging on his neck.
I don't know if that was him or not.
It was a couple of years ago. I seen him at the Sweet 16 2 years ago, so it hadn't have been, right?
No.
He was playing with Perry Ellis and all them.
No, I think you're thinking Wayne Selden.
Wayne Selden, yeah.
No, Xavier Henry. Go look him up, how good that kid was. He's number one.
He was the lefty.
And you think about this. Had Calipari not left and stayed at Memphis, he had Henry committed. He had DeMarcus Cousins committed. He had John Wall committed. He had Eric Bledsoe looking at Memphis, probably going there. He had all them guys at Memphis for one season. It'd have been a wrap that year. It'd have been over.
Take notes, Penny Hardaway.
Yeah. Everybody jealous. Hey, Connor, that's a good question, man. We might have to dedicate one of our summer shows to this.
Yeah.
I think we can make a whole podcast out of it. So, good stuff, though. Good stuff. So with that, we'll go ahead and wrap this up. We got some stuff. I know it's getting late. A lot of us are tired and stuff. So Conrad said next podcast guest. We appreciate you guys joining along with us. Sunday is going to be phenomenal. Join along with us in. Go ahead and go to Premier Giant Productions. Find them on Facebook. Like their business page. Join the Facebook group. That's where you'll find us. Be active in our group, facebook.com/everything college basketball. On this video, like, share, subscribe. Be ready, because the podcast is going to be lit as always on Sunday, and lots of information, lots of fun stuff. Numbers continue to go up, and we're about to open our whole selves up to a new audience. Conrad, you be ready as well, because we keep dropping everything college basketball plugs like normal, and Applied Right Painting Services plugs to these thousands of people that's about to start witnessing our rise. It's only going to help you too out, sir.
Oh, yeah.
So, with that said, Josh Burton,
Peyton Burton,
Tyler Cook.
and we will catch you Sunday live with an episode of Everything College Basketball Podcast, live from the Premier Giant Studios. We will see you then. See you.
Thanks.